Welcome to Stretford, Paddock. My name is Joe. This is Abdul. How you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, it's good to be on. Back with another tactical show. Exciting.
Yeah, I know. It's not a good one, though, is it? Because we're going to be looking at Manchester United's problems at right back and understanding exactly what is going on in that position. No one can hold a spot down. No one looks confident. Everyone's looking shaky at the minute. I mean, let's just get straight into it.
I think, the first game we're going to look into, or, sort of graphic we're going to look into, is the Wan-Bissaka against Man City. Poor performance. What we expect from Wan-Bissaka in these big games is really dealing with the wingers. We've seen those tackle numbers when he's racked up against Sterling and the direct forwards and how he deals with them. And I felt like he really struggled against Man City. Yeah. Maybe from a tactical perspective, I think Pep Guardiola looked at that and he thought, Sterling's not the best matchup here. Let me look at Foden. But it's more than just the fact that it's a different style of player he'd come up against. I felt like even against some of the most technical players, we look at, PSG in that COVID game away, he was brilliant, him and Tuanzebe on that side, tracking back against Mbappe and Neymar, dealing with them really well. A brilliant performance, one of our best players on the night, I think, that day. And when you compare it to what we seen yesterday, there was a clip on Match of the Day where I think Foden's like a couple of yards away and then he's got a track across and he gets there before Wan-Bissaka then shrugs him off.
Chucks him on the floor, doesn't he?
He's not even doing the things that we know Wan-Bissaka can do well. Like we love Wan-Bissaka for, when he's recovered and he's made a tackle, then he's had them big moments that even lift the defence and players out. And on top of that, his distribution was shocking. Only Bruno Fernandes had, has misplaced more pass in that Man City game, in the Manchester derby, than Wan-Bissaka. Your defenders need to be higher up in those passing accuracies. You need to look at over 85, 86. You look at Lindelof and Harry Maguire, who both you'd say had poor games in the Manchester derby, still had a decent pass accuracy in that game, above the 85%. And especially when you're trying to play out, if you're the second worst on that pitch in terms of passing, can't be a right.
Like you said, 72% you see there. That's the pass accuracy of someone that's taking like chance after chance, trying to play balls into the behind the lines, trying to play those risky through balls. Like Bruno, obviously he could have still done better himself, but it makes sense that his is lower because he's making those final passes that are the most difficult passes in football. He's generally making 5 and 10 yard passes either back to Lindelof, down to up to Elanga, or into Fred. Like he shouldn't be missing, almost 1 in 3 of his passes is going awry. Not good enough.
And it's exactly that. And we will get into Dalot later on the show, and we'll look at his passing map and how the fact that he plays in a final third, Diogo Dalot, a lot more, and he still completes better passes and the areas he's recovering the ball in. But with Wan-Bissaka, where we're focusing on this game, I think we're going to have a look at sort of his passing in this game as a map in the defensive third. And I just feel like you look at that right side, the amount of trouble that he caused by just passing it back to that Man City team rather than playing us out of pressure. Yeah. You know what? It was so disappointing because he's someone, when we signed, I was actually quite excited with Wan-Bissaka's signing. I thought he looked good at Crystal Palace. I get his limitations on the ball. Maybe something I didn't look too much into before he joined us. And you just look here, like it's pretty bad, this, like the areas that you're going to lose the ball in that area. And there was one as well for the goal. Again, City do recover it, then recycle the ball and come across. But eventually, you look at it, he's one of the causes to one of the goals because of that.
And you look as well, almost all of those passes are backwards. Yeah. And he's a fullback. Yeah. Like, there aren't many players behind him on the pitch.
Yeah, you
like,
need
more
to
of his passes have to be going forward. I know, obviously, City are very good at containing, and they seem to target him with the press. It was like they almost swarmed across from their right to their left to try and pin the ball in that corner with him. But the fact that he's a defender and still somehow almost all of his completed passes are backwards.
And he throws his teammates under the bus a lot in that game. And it's frustrating. I don't want this to be like a Wan-Bissaka hate show. It's more just looking at what's gone wrong with Wan-Bissaka because we know he's got a lot of limitations going forward. I actually think he's a decent player in build-up. What we've seen under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer with Wan-Bissaka is when he's in build-up, he looks into that pass into Scott McTominay, receives it back. He's not bad in those areas. And this is why it feels like in that game, he wasn't even doing that. Like, he wasn't playing out of the press well with those short passes that he's okay with. I'm not expecting him to find a long pass over the top like Diogo Dalot seems to do quite a bit. I'm expecting you to play us out of pressure in a decent manner and not throw your teammates under the bus in midfield and lose the ball in dangerous areas. And yeah, it's very quite disappointing. And I think there's a big task here for Ralph and what he does for the rest of the season, because when Wan-Bissaka had come on against Atletico Madrid, I thought he actually did decently well because Man United struggled in that game on that side. Lindelof playing at right back, it felt like he was eventually going to get a red card.
Work, did it?
Yeah, it wasn't natural to him. And I feel like if you're going to play, I do get Ralph testing that, and I will hint a bit on on the Lindelof thing. I think Ralph was testing that to see, is that a way we can play a different right back? I'm not too happy with Dalot, not too happy with Wan-Bissaka. Even though I disagree with the Dalot thing, I think he's a player with game time, just improves and elevates his game. I feel like Lindelof in that game he didn't really play as an inverted fullback where he's coming in and finding a pass over the top or actually controlling a bit of the game. Atletico Madrid seemed to pin him down because he wasn't coming out. And when he come out, he was always in two minds, it looked like, because if he leaves too much space behind him, he knows he's not got that recovery pace. So that's something that we've seen Ralph trying. But we'll move on to
Diogo Dalot, because obviously Wan-Bissaka, it's been hit and miss, if not pretty miss for him in recent weeks, hasn't it? Whereas Dalot, it looked as though, I thought, shaky early in the season. We talked about him versus Danjuma in the Villarreal game where he just got obliterated, basically. But since then, it's been better, bit better. And then all of a sudden, out the squad.
Yeah, it's exactly that. And I don't understand that, because the game that he comes out in, and we will look at his passing in that game, the Brighton game, that was his last start. I thought he actually had a decent game in where he was recovering the ball. But I mean, when we look at his numbers here, Diogo Dalot, he's defensively, statistically, he looks better than any Man United defender in 2022. If you go off the numbers. So that's what's confusing to me, because that's a part of his game where a lot of people would have found an issue with Diogo Dalot. And since the turn of the year, he ranks high in a lot of these defensive numbers compared to his Manchester United teammates in defence. So that's part of his game that he's clearly working on. And I've spoken to people in and around him, and he seemed really eager, wanting to take a place in this team. And this isn't just saying, he's come in and he's smashed it and he's done well every week. It's been very steady with him. He had that brilliant, for me, Brentford performance. I think without him, we struggle a lot in that game. He seemed to deal with a lot of the aerial balls, and he made 16 ball recoveries in that Brentford game, more than any other player on the pitch. What I like about Diogo Dalot when we played the 4-3-3 in recent weeks, and I'd like Ralph to revisit that system and revisit what we were trying to do with that, was he would step into midfield and it almost allows Pogba, whoever's playing in the higher rate role, to have a further position, because he was aggressively winning it sort of in the opposition's half. As good as a tackler Aaron Wan-Bissaka is, football's about positioning a lot of the time. It isn't about your physique. It isn't about... Like we've seen, he got shrugged off by Foden because Foden made the right move. He understood the situation a bit better. It's a lot of the time it's in your mind. It's not just about what you can physically do. And I feel like Diogo Dalot places himself so far up the pitch that a lot of the time Man United benefited a lot of when the ball was coming into midfield, he'd come into that inside role and just win it, and then you'd start again. I feel like we struggled in recent weeks, and that's why I don't understand why he'd come out of the team. A lot of it was steady progress. Yeah, his crossing, I'm not going to look past that. His crossing was quite disappointing. But it's the areas that he's actually winning the ball back, he's benefiting United in an attacking sense. And we're going to look at his attacking third passes against Brighton now. You look at that map, and in that game, he made 19 final third passes. Only Bruno Fernandes had 19 as well on that pitch. So no player on the pitch had more. And that says a lot about his attacking game. And that is an asset to you as a side. Now, besides his crossing, like I said, he's got to improve on and creating chances and finding his teammates in the area. That part of the game is absolutely crucial at the top level. We've seen what fullbacks can do and attacking fullbacks can do at this level, and how teams just play through them. You look at, Reece James directly involved in 11 goals in the Premier League for Chelsea.
And he barely played it.
He's barely played. He's genuinely been their best player. And what's weird with Reece James is going off topic a little bit, but he seems to have the same sequences in the way he scores goals. He's actually finding himself in the area a lot of the time. So fullbacks are so important in this game right now, and I feel like when you're starting to find something with like a Dalot, you need to take the benefit of that and use him in a better way and keep that steady progress and maybe improve on his crossing. But I think his general play, I was actually happy with in recent weeks, and it was disappointing that he'd come out of the team. And Wan-Bissaka, I feel like I thought he'd come and bounce back. He did okay against Leeds, getting okay off the bench against Atletico. But the fact that he's had Diogo Dalot ahead of him, I thought he'd have a bigger bounce back. And for me, there is no way he should be starting against Tottenham.
No.
There's no way he starts ahead of Diogo Dalot. He's not got the right to start in that game. And hopefully Diogo continues to improve in the coming weeks. And, it depends, you guys in the comments, obviously, you can let us know who you think should start at that full-back position, in the right-back position. And hopefully Man United, finally adjust to someone in that role, because it is very important.
Yeah, and it's one that we keep chopping and changing every week. Like the fact that Lindelof was playing there, and no offense to him, but he's played there very occasionally in the last 4 or 5 years. It shows that Ralph Rangnick obviously hasn't got his first team players sort of locked down there, which is something that we need, isn't it? Do you think either of these two players have a long-term future at United? I know it's a bit of a heavy question, but do you think you could see either of these two being United's first choice in 2 years?
I think Diogo Dalot has a good chance of playing a part in this squad. Maybe not as a starting right back in the coming years, but maybe takes that role depending on what manager gets. You look at Ten Hag, he's a manager who maximises what a player does. You look at Daley Blind, United fans were happy to see him go, and he's genuinely been one of the best, players in the Champions League this season. He's, whether he's playing at left back or centre half under Ten Hag in recent years. And I feel like he's a manager that really gets the most. And if we can get him in, and you look at Matt Sarawi, for me, is the best example. Ajax fans or people online the last couple of years, because he's a player I always enjoyed watching, had their concerns over his game and stuff like that. And right now, he's been one of the best fullbacks that I've watched in Europe in the last couple of months. So I think Diogo Dalot will benefit a lot out of the right manager with a real structure, and I think we'll even see him go to another level. He's still young for a fullback. There's a lot to learn. You look at João Cancelo when he started hitting his ceiling. That Juve season, I'm pretty sure he was 25, 26. Like, that Juventus season, he was starting to look his best. He was starting to come into, his best stage, and you start seeing his game evolve. And I feel like Dalot, I can see that from him. The issue is with Wan-Bissaka, he hasn't got that all-round game where you can improve parts of it, and, he got the full package at the end of it. And in the modern game, it is very difficult. But I feel like United need to look at other areas, because if Dalot can be improved and his general play stays as it is when he's coming into the centre of the pitch in that crucial area, like we see with the final third passes there, then Man United can look at prioritising other areas. I've seen you guys speak earlier about the Rashford situation, Cavani, Ronaldo. There is a lot of problems in this Man United team, and the last thing we need, De Gea as well, is coming up as a discussion. Like, it's almost like a full team now we're talking about. For the money we spent, it's a joke. And you feel maybe there's areas where it could just improve certain personnels and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, like you said, Dalot in particular can really kick on and get a run of games, because, like I said, I thought he was improving. I thought the best Dalot we'd ever seen was the last 2 or 3 games, and then he goes away again. So slightly confusing, but we'll see what Rangnick does. Obviously, we've got the Tottenham game coming up, and then the Madrid game after that. 2 massive games, and then no game for, I think, pretty much 3 weeks. So kind of need to go into that break with a couple of wins under our belt. Thank you very much, Abdul, for joining us.
Cheers,
Let us know what you want to see from these videos. Do you like this statistical approach? Do you want to see more of it? Because I love it. I love hearing the details behind what you sort of see, what's going on the pitch at Manchester United, and it's more of an insight rather than just I find myself going, oh shit, get rid of him. When really, these players have got things that you don't always notice first time. So it's great to see. If you aren't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell as well. So whenever we go live or a new video goes live, you see it first. Thanks again, Abdul. Where can people find you?
Abdul GH _ on Twitter.
Nice one. I'm at Joe Smith 93 on Instagram and Twitter as well. We'll see you in a bit.